We're 1 second in. You see it? We're just two chicks trying to figure out how to go live on Facebook. That's all. Sheesh. We are professionals, Katie. And we will figure this out. That I have no doubt. Hey, Jake. What's up? I invited you too. I'm trying to get Katie on this. I need some sunflower seeds. Hey, Cher. We're trying to get Katie on, y'all. Hey.
Okay, I just sent you a request.
Oh, yes. Approved. I sent you an invite. Oh, God. You hear that? Yeah, that's not good. It's so exciting.
So let's see if I mute mine. How do you mute this?
Do what?
The microphones. Can you mute yours? Press on it and see if it works. Okay.
Mine is.
Can you hear?
Can I hear?
Can everyone hear her?
I can hear you on the microphone, and I hope that I can just
share. Hey, Jake.
speak loudly enough to be heard on your phone too.
Yeah, I think that it'll work, and then that way we wouldn't have that feedback.
Okay. Got it.
Hey, everyone! Look at us! We did it!
That's so
Let
funny.
us know if you can't hear Lori, because we muted her mic on her
It was giving
phone.
big feedback in here.
Yeah, we had a lot. So if you can't hear her, let us know. Or if you can hear her, great. Let us know that too. That will help.
Can you hear me, darling?
Okay. Let me go into our recording.
I swear, I really wish y'all could
Say
hear.
taco, Jake said.
Taco! Tacos.
Y'all, at the podcast, we are going live on Facebook again. That's why you're hearing this talk over Lori's fabulous beat she made. Y'all can't hear it over there because it's in our ears.
Wait, what? Oh,
It didn't do it. Did you watch it? Because it didn't play at all, and I was just sitting there like, yeah. Shake it out.
Yeah. That's what we're doing over here.
I wonder, is it going to have that thing on your
I don't know.
face the whole time?
Let me go look. If it's on the web like that.
Yeah.
That's us.
Hey, y'all. So welcome to episode 13. We are going to discuss commonly misused words and the differences, like narcissist, gaslighting, toxic relationships. You know, in today's culture, it's thrown out a lot, and we kind of want to go into depth on what the differences are. You know, not everyone that you've ever dated is a narcissist, but you might have one or two.
I think people can have like narcissistic qualities and not be a full-fledged narcissist. And this is by no means any sort of diagnosis for anyone who has any of these things, because we are not medical professionals. So that's like a warning, you know, and a precursor. And also,
trigger warning for this episode
Yeah.
because the things that we're going to talk about are, they could be a little traumatic, especially if you're someone who's
Going
experienced
through
this,
this, yeah.
survived this. So that's just what it is. So trigger warning, and we're not doctors. Okay.
Wait, hold on just a second. Sorry, guys. Okay.
We weren't recording this.
Nope. It's okay.
Well, no, I do want to put the disclaimer
Yeah.
on the
On
podcast.
voice.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll say it again that Katie and I are not medical professionals. So if you do have, or have trauma, unhealed trauma, or if you have ever been in a toxic relationship with someone who's a narcissist, this is not a way
Or
for you to.
experienced any type of abuse, because we will discuss that as well.
Right. So
Physical, emotional, and sexual,
well, I was
potentially.
going to say that we're not doctors first, so don't use this information to diagnose anyone. And then I'm going to give the trigger warning because we're going to talk about things that are they are triggering for people who have been through this, who have trauma surrounding these issues. So trigger warning and a disclaimer: we're not doctors. Close your ears and eyes if you don't want to hear about this.
Yeah.
But we've lived it, so I mean, if anybody, it's us.
Yeah, like I was telling her before we started, it was refreshing my memory so well. I had to change my music and kind of get myself into a reminder that I'm okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's start with toxic.
Yeah, toxic versus what?
Toxic versus maybe this relationship just isn't for me.
Like incompatible.
Yes.
So
incompatibility versus a relationship or someone being toxic.
Right. So what you got for that?
While this term can be useful in describing a relationship that is harmful or destructive, it is often overused to describe any difficult or challenging relationship.
Right. Yeah, so it's getting watered down with the amount of like TikToks and posts
Social media
about what is really actually toxic versus just maybe incompatibility.
So a toxic relationship is one that is harmful, negative, and destructive to one or both partners. It is characterized by behaviors such as manipulation, control, abuse, and disrespect. In a toxic relationship, one or both parties may feel trapped, drained, or constantly on edge. On the other hand, a relationship that isn't for you may simply be the one that doesn't meet your needs or align with your core values. It may lack compatibility, communication, and shared interests. In this case, you may feel unhappy or unfulfilled, and unconnected, but you do not necessarily feel trapped or drained. And then when I was looking this up, it gave a few things to mention.
What?
Oh, sorry, I was reading the comments. So it can be difficult to distinguish between a toxic relationship and one that isn't for you. Here are some signs that maybe the relationship is toxic versus this just isn't the person.
Right.
Frequent arguments or conflicts that do not get resolved, lack of trust or respect between partners, manipulative or controlling behaviors, emotional, verbal, or physical abuse, feeling trapped, drained, or constantly on edge, walking on eggshells. Ultimately, it's important to prioritize your own well-being and happiness in any relationship. And I think that if you weren't taught that growing up, we talk about people pleasing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a people pleaser, you put everyone else's needs ahead of yours. And so you have to open your eyes.
Yeah, I think that there has to be like an awareness. Again, we go back to this all the time about awareness, but you have to have some sort of aha moment where you kind of put all these pieces together and you're like, this probably is not the best relationship for me. I'm noticing like X, Y, and Z signs, and it's not really comfortable for me. Or, maybe someone in your group maybe expresses like, hey, I'm noticing that you and so are having these kind of repetitious issues. Like, when you go to that friend's house who's the relationship is like total trash.
Uh-huh.
and like they start arguing in front of everybody, and then everybody
The
like it
tension, you
just it
feel
sucks
it
the
in
air
you.
out of the room, and everybody's like, should we just go? Like, what's going on here? Will this ever end? You know, I think if you start to have those situations where, and that's when you kind of lean into your friend and be like, hey, bro, maybe
Yeah.
you need to reevaluate. And then also kind of like reflect on like, how did you get here? Like, what in your life that you experienced or saw or that was modeled for you as a child that is giving you this kind of need to mimic that in your adult life?
Well, and then what we talked about before we started recording was if you weren't raised in a loving family relationship, some of these toxic behaviors or, you know, abuse tactics or some of these things feel comfortable to you. They don't feel toxic to you.
Right, because that becomes your norm, and people don't realize that being uncomfortable sometimes it becomes your comfort.
Yes.
I say it
Yeah.
all the time that you know, don't sit in shit for so long that you forget it smells like shit.
Mhm.
So, but that happens in our
But
life.
if you've grown up in shit, you don't know.
You grow up in shit
You're just
sometimes,
like, oh, this is what it is.
and then you go out seeking new piles of shit
Mhm.
because you're like, wow, this is where I'm so used to being. I know it sounds crazy, but
like, dang.
it is true. And I'm sorry, Facebook, I cursed a couple times. It'll get.
Are we not allowed
There
to
will
curse
be
on
more.
Facebook?
Buckle up, buttercup. There'll be more curse words. That's because I like to express myself.
Are
that
we
way.
not allowed to curse?
I don't know.
That's on Facebook.
But I'm gonna do it.
Don't.
I'm gonna do it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's ways to identify the incompatibilities in a relationship, and I think that that's important when you're dating anybody, for that matter.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but being able to determine, like, okay, you know, religious beliefs sometimes can do that. Political beliefs can do that.
100%. I know I have on one of my dating sites.
Right.
It won't work out with us if, and you voted for Trump. One person responded was like, is it not okay to make mistakes? I was like, well, I mean, like, I guess maybe, but then I'm kind of like, why did you ask?
Right.
What is this sticker thing?
I don't. Oh, somebody sent that. Chef sent that.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree that, like, you know, there are some things that are like, if this is the way, then we can't get past that. Like, I can't get past that.
Those are core compatibility
values,
things that just don't match.
So I think being aware of those two, it's kind of like when you need to set boundaries in places, and you have to be aware of yourself enough to set those boundaries. I think this kind of goes hand in hand with that, especially when you have people who are, you know, trauma survivors, for them to be able to sit and be like, okay, look, next time I know for sure not going to be hanging out with alcoholics, or I don't want a guy who's, you know, been an addict, opiates, or what, you know, like there's these little things. So it almost sounds like I have experience with that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. But yeah, and I think it's you know, there's just going to be some hard no's.
Yes.
And that's where you have to kind of sit with yourself and get a list going, or get some sort of, like, you know, pros, cons, shit like that.
And then as we go through these words, we will discuss, you know, we'll go into depth for some of those things.
Yeah.
Because as I was looking it up, I was like, oh, I don't know if everyone knows about this, because I didn't know about it until I experienced it and I researched it, and I was like, oh my God, all of these things happened. Wow. I sure wish I would have known that this was a thing.
What it was called.
Yeah.
Like, give it a name so that I can.
Yeah. So now when I begin dating someone or start talking to someone, I can see these things so clearly.
Right.
Because I have the awareness.
Yeah. Like, I've been there, done that. I know what that looks like.
All right. Let me check our recording. Okay. We're good. All right. So next we're going to go into the narcissist. The word narcissist. Narcissism and selfishness share some similarities, but there are distinct differences between the two. A true narcissist is someone who has a pervasive pattern of grandiosity, a lack of empathy for others, and an excessive need for admiration. So here,
I was thinking that was kind of like describing a
someone that we know.
Well, not just that, but I was thinking, like, there might be a whole astrological sign. But carry on.
Really? Which one do you think it is?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll go into that after if we have time. Okay. Here are some ways to differentiate between a true narcissist and someone who might just be selfish. So, we talked about the lack of empathy.
Right.
And grandiosity. I didn't know what that was until I started
learning. Tell us what that word means, Katie, because it is a little weird.
In the field of psychology, the term grandiosity refers to an unrealistic sense of superiority, characterized by the sustained view of oneself as better than others.
So this would be somebody who feels like they're like the king of the world.
Yes, they are the king of the world. They can't be touched.
Shit don't sink.
I can drive 75 miles an hour down this road and I'm not going to get a ticket.
Oh.
They know me.
Oh.
I'm good. Do you know who I am?
Oh.
Right?
No, I'm sorry, I don't. That would be fun.
And that's what they say is narcissists have a highly inflated sense of self-importance, whereas selfish people tend to be more focused on their own immediate needs or desires.
Right. Like, I need this right now because I need this right now. Not because I want to flex.
I need to show you how amazing I am so that I feel good about myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So then there goes into manipulation.
Yeah, that ego, Jake.
Yeah. I don't know why mine's not. It's probably for the best, so that I don't get distracted. Narcissists may manipulate or exploit others to achieve their goals, whereas selfish people generally more straightforward in their self-centeredness. Manipulation from a narcissist can take many forms and can be difficult to recognize at first. Here are some common tactics that narcissists use to manipulate others. Gaslighting. This is another one of the words that we're going to go into depths on.
So, and also I'd like to add in here that narcissistic personality disorder is that.
Yes.
It is a personality disorder. It is not.
It's not anything you can change.
Selfish is a personality trait.
Yeah.
This is a personality disorder that would need to be treated with the help of medical professionals.
A psychologist, psychiatrist.
So
I follow one on TikTok, and he is in therapy, and he's telling his story from his side as someone who's trying to get better.
So that's the thing too.
Which is really big.
If you realize that you have these characteristics and it's uncontrollable for you, maybe listening here or finding this out could help guide you to get some help so that the rest of us will want to hang out with you.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I mean,
and that it is. It's all kinds of therapy to go through and work through how they got there, because in some of my research, a lot of how they got there is from their childhood.
Right.
And from having a narcissistic parent, mother or father.
Yeah.
And so then they turn it, and I was listening to one, and it was explaining how, I don't have the full details of how it happens, but it was kind of like when the child, let's say they had a soccer game, they missed this goal, they did this, and then they got a lashing from the parent. But then in public, when they went somewhere and
everything was all like glove.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, how is everything? Oh, he's the best soccer player in the world. He did 3 goals on his last game."
Right.
And the kid's confused because it's like, "Wait, I didn't, and you just told me." So I can't go into all of that because, like we said, we're not doctors. But it's very interesting to look up and read about.
Yeah.
So do you want to go into gaslighting?
Oh. Let me take a bite of this gas.
It's really terrible, and it is
I think
lasting.
I think what is so deeply damaging about gaslighting is it kind of teaches you to stop listening to yourself and start to like second guess and not be with yourself or your thoughts, to where you just probably
you don't trust yourself.
Right. So that's definitely a lot of shit. So gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse where the abuser manipulates the victim into doubting their own sanity, their own judgment, and their own reality. The abuser deliberately distorts reality to make the victim question if their own memories and experiences really happened. Gaslighting can be subtle. It is an insidious form of abuse that erodes the victim's sense of self-worth and leaves them feeling confused, helpless, and powerless. So some examples and techniques of gaslighting, like vomit.
Yeah.
So that'd be like if you denied something happened. Like, let's say yesterday you ate my cheese stick, my last cheese stick. And I know I watched you eat it.
Right.
And we talked about it while it was happening.
Dang, that was my last.
Why'd you take it?
That?
And then tomorrow I wake up and I'm like, really wish I had that cheese stick right now. And you'd be like,
What are you talking about?
what cheese stick? You know, the one you ate yesterday. I didn't eat your cheese stick. Like, bitch, I saw it. I watched you eat it. Like, we had an argument. You're crazy. That didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And like, clearly, I'm not
And then
tripping.
but after you've gone through it so much, you're like,
Yeah,
maybe
then you're
I didn't. Maybe I did
I make that
misunderstand
up?
that.
Like,
Yeah.
did I not experience that? So, yeah, playing tricks on people's sanity like that is high class, super effed up. Like, yeah. All right. So that's something that you could do, or like trivializing somebody's feelings or blaming things on the
you're
person
so
that are not their
sensitive.
fault. Yeah, you're too sensitive.
Mhm.
That's a good one. Manipulating them into doubting their own perceptions. So the reason why an abuser will do this to someone is because they want to further isolate them from their people and make them kind of like a puppet, because then you're afraid to do anything, because if you do anything, it's wrong and you're going to get called into question, and this other person is never going to validate that the experience was really real. So, or they're always going to try to get away from it and be like, this is not crazy. So they just want to control, and this is another tactic to get control. So,
did you touch on the partner blaming you for things that aren't your fault?
Yeah, blaming victims for things that are not their fault.
Like, I cheated on you because you did this.
Yeah, because you got fat.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I cheated on you because I'm not attracted to you anymore. Well, then what are we doing together?
Right.
Yeah, like, just go. So gaslighting is very effective in toxic relationships because it preys on the victim's vulnerability, and it enhances their self-doubt. So this gaslighting person can just kind of get really, really into, somebody's head. And I don't want to say the F word on Facebook. I don't know why I'm tripping about it.
Yes, Missy Lou brings up a really good
What's
point.
your name?
The flying monkeys that back the narcissist who participate in the gaslighting knowingly or unknowingly, making it so much worse. Yes. I call them the enablers.
Yeah, they are enablers.
But that's also part of what's coming up next is triangulation.
Yes.
Which is a form of the manipulation that they do. When you bring another person into the picture,
right.
and you're using one against the other.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this person said this about you, then you're not liking that person. He's telling the other person that whatever, that you're saying this about them, and then that puts two people at war, and then that keeps them in the clear.
Right.
And then those two people are never talking and never knowing the truth.
Right.
And that's what they do.
Yeah.
And the smear campaign. Yes, you're right. You are so right. The smear campaigin. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
I didn't know what the hell that was either until one of our friends used to use it as a hashtag. And I couldn't understand, so I Googled it. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, and that's true. So the smear campaign is when the narcissist breaks up with you and they tell everyone all these bad things about you. You're right. Nobody likes the truth teller.
Yeah.
Which that's not true, because all my people know the truth and they liked me. It's all the people who wanted to believe the lies.
This is true.
But yeah, so the smear campaign is their way of trying to get people against you.
Right. It's another way to isolate you further.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Even in the breakup, you can still be isolated. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I can't have you. Well, then look, I'm just going to give you this smear campaign, and no one will want you. So yeah, it's trash. So triangulation. Let's get back to that and see what's up with that.
Okay. So this occurs when a narcissist brings in a third party to create drama or conflict, often to make themselves look better or gain control over the situation, and to cause disconnection between truths being revealed. For example, so-and-so doesn't like you because of this, and then they will tell the other person that. I remember in one of my relationships, this person told their family that we were in an open relationship. And so the family inherently had a dislike for me or this person in the family. And it wasn't until years later that I found that out. I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? No, I would never.
That's wild.
I don't know if I would ever do that. I don't know. But at that time, I definitely knew I wouldn't. And that was the expectation of what they thought about me. was,
they
here's
thought, like,
this chick.
you were like this, like just
Yeah,
out here.
Jezebel. Yeah. Yeah. So they
Okay.
were like, we don't want anything to do with
I
it.
mean, if you want to do that, that's your business too. But
Yeah.
right.
But let me tell my own truth. Let
Yeah.
me live a truth, not some lie
So
that
what do
you
you
made
think
up.
this person's intentions were for doing that? They didn't want their family people to like you?
Probably, because if the family comes in and then you learn the truth about them,
Mm-hmm.
then they can't, all these things that they pretended to be can't be true.
Right. So there was like a host of other
Yes.
stuff happening too.
Yeah.
Not just this triangulation.
Yeah. No. Everything that we are going to talk about.
Yeah. Well, and it's I want to say that because it is paramount to understand that a lot of times these things are all going on at one time.
Yeah.
It's not just one tactic. When you are dealing with someone who is intent on being an abuser, you are going to find that there's layers to it. So if you're seeing in your own relationship while you're listening to this, any of these things kind of happening, maybe it's time to ask for some help.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so they want to create chaos and drama in the relationship. And
that also leads into your gaslighting and you like thinking you're crazy or like, well, why don't these people like me? Oh,
right.
because this person's lying.
Yeah, they just want to isolate you further and further and further, which is, it's so bizarre. Like, I feel like it's like
because they know
like
that if you
to
talk to someone about it openly, they would be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's wrong.
No, you need to get out of here.
Yeah, that's how I feel. You gotta go. How are we doing on time?
Okay.
We should take a break. Because we can only do 15-minute segments on the podcast.
Let's just pause.
So podcast, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back in a moment.
If we're back.
I love it. So, where are we going next after?
I have love bombing.
Yeah, I have it too.
Emotional blackmail. We can go through. So love bombing is like in the beginning phase, right? You know.
Yeah, that's how they reel you in. You're like, oh, I'm so special. I love you. I'll do all these things for you. Maybe it's showering you with gifts or taking you on these fancy dates or trips. And then once you're sucked in there,
you're the best person I've ever met.
Yeah,
I've been looking for you my whole life.
I've never met anyone like you before. You're like pure fucking magic. But I am.
Which for us is hard because we feel that way. We're like, yeah, I am. And
right.
Yeah, you are lucky to be around here.
This is true.
But you just gotta like slow it down. Like, listen, if someone's ready to marry you or move in with you after 3 months, you take a little step back.
What do they call those? They're like hobos. Not hobos, but there's a word? What is it called?
Because no one falls in love quicker than a homeless man who needs a house or some, I don't know.
Whatever. Somebody dropped a meme in the comments because I know that there's a meme for this.
Nobody falls in love quicker than a man who needs a pillow and a blanket.
Whatever it is. Yeah. So, have you ever experienced love bombing?
Yeah.
Because I have.
Yeah.
I've even thought that I was doing it. I was like,
really?
No, I'm not.
You're like, no, I'm just this loving.
I am. I am that way.
And I realized I'm like, no, this is just how I am.
Right.
Even when, homosexuals, Jake said.
Thank you, Jake.
Yes.
I knew there was a word for it. Come through, other half of my brain. Yeah, so I've definitely experienced it before. Dating this guy, and like literally was like, man, I want to get married to you, and I'm like,
After how long?
Maybe like 60 days.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's pump the brakes on that and see if we can make it like 6 months, a year, and then we'll readdress it because, I'm just not ready for that. Like, that's not a thing that I want to do. And, I think right then too, you start to look at like the other red flags. Like, well, hold on.
You're like, oh wait, you're serious.
Yeah, it's 2 months, and this is too much. Like, this is not really real. And then you start to learn like the history of the person when you're doing these dating things for the 2 months, and you're like, okay, so this is like who you are. This is your MO. I don't want to play.
Yeah.
I want to get out of this sandbox. So, yeah, understanding what this is helpful to you so that you can make better relationship choices in the future.
Yeah.
Hey,
Like
Dana.
if it feels, hey, marriage danger. If it feels too soon, too fast, too much, it probably is.
Yeah,
And listen, it is hard because when you're single and, I don't know if you've been in this dating pool, but it is hard to find someone that you like. And so it is easy to get carried away if you find someone and they click all those boxes and
Yeah.
you like them a lot, but it doesn't have to be rushed. And so the same goes for their reciprocation. If they're overboard and they're trying to do too much, take a step back and see what happens. Isn't it nuts when we love ourselves? Yeah.
I love love
I love-
bombing me.
yeah. But I know my intentions.
Yes, and that's a big
And I think
thing.
that's the difference.
Is intentions. Because if you're doing it with, like an intent to like eventually abuse someone, I'm not
Right.
abusing me.
Like I'm trying to love bomb this woman or man to secure them into this relationship.
Right, yeah.
This is why I'm doing it. I'm not going to continue to do this because this is not my character. This is not who I am.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing to fool you into
Right. And to becoming
thinking that I
my
care
pet.
about you this much.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's not true.
No.
Okay. So then there's the emotional blackmail. Narcissists may use guilt, shame, or fear to get what they want from their victim. Emotional blackmail is a tactic that some narcissists use to control others by using their emotions to manipulate and guilt them into doing things that they want. Emotional blackmail may involve threats, coercion, or other forms of pressure to get someone to comply with the narcissist's wishes. Here are some common examples of emotional blackmail from narcissists. Threats. They may threaten to end the relationship or take away something important, the victim, in order to get what they want.
I'm leaving and I'm taking the car.
That's a good example.
Yes.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Guilt. They may make the victim feel guilty for not doing what they want, often by using language that suggests the victim is not caring or loving enough, or you don't love me because you won't do this for me.
Right.
Fear. They may use fear to control the victim, such as threatening to expose embarrassing or damaging information. Shame. They may shame to make the victim feel bad about themselves, often by criticizing or belittling them in front of others. And it's often not done as clearly as we think it is. It's very little bitty
it's covertly.
Yes. Yeah. Blame. The narcissist may blame the victim for their own negative emotions or behavior, suggesting that the victim is the cause of all their problems.
Yeah, if you didn't do this, I wouldn't do that. Like, yeah, you're trying to.
I was only on drugs because I was in a relationship with you, is something that I've heard. I'm sorry. By that time, I was healed enough and I knew that wasn't true, and I was like, okay, we're done. Emotional blackmail can be very effective in getting someone to comply with the narcissist's wishes, as it can create a sense of obligation or guilt that the victim feels they must fulfill. It's important to recognize when you are being emotionally blackmailed and to seek support and help break free from the cycle of control and manipulation.
Yeah, that's like the key takeaway from today, is to be able to recognize these things in your partner or future partners to where you don't continue down this path. So like these little kind of intro bits, like when these people start to show you who they are, and if you see yourself here, like reach out, it's time to get some help. So recognizing signs and symptoms of abuse. So like how
well, hold on.
Okay.
1 second. So there is less
the narcissistic
projection. Okay. This occurs when the narcissist blames their own negative behaviors or emotions on their victim.
Right.
So like, I mean, I probably wouldn't blame you if you cheated on me because this, and this. But really, in reality, they were the one cheating.
Yeah.
So they're projecting their behaviors on you. And then the silent treatment.
We did talk about that.
Yeah. So, and that's a really, really mentally, especially if you have attachment issues.
Yeah.
Like abandonment attachment issues. And so when someone gives you the silent treatment, that can physically physically feel
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, because especially if it's somebody you're in a partnership or, any kind of relationship with, and you crave to have this communication with this person about whatever problem you're having, for them to just give you the silent treatment, it feels like
It's like a way
it's
to
like
control.
it's like the end of the world for you.
Yeah.
Because you're like, no, all I want to do is be able to talk about this. All I want to do is be
Move
able to
through this
connect
problem.
with you and
And you're like,
figure it
"No,
out.
we just want you."
Yeah, that's true.
I do this for you. Why don't you do this for me? Yes, Dana.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
then that's on the.
I think it's time to look at the fan. I'm on fire. You're not hot?
No.
I'm hot.
She's gonna open the doors so we get some. I'm always cold, which is why I bring a sweater and long sleeves.
My ears are hot from the microphone.
Yeah, these things keep our heads warm.
A little sunflower seed right there. All right.
Okay, so we left off on the silent treatment, and that was all of the ways of manipulative behaviors that can show up. Not all of them. There's
No.
probably way more.
Yeah, I would say that's most of them.
Most
So
of
if you see any of those sprinkling in your life, you need a GTF.
Oh, there's one more of the things from how you can tell a narcissist versus another person. Narcissists often have a history of unstable relationships due to their difficulty maintaining empathy and intimacy, whereas selfish people may still be able to maintain healthy relationships. The pattern tracking.
Correct. So just like I was saying about the person who's doing love bombing.
Mm-hmm.
So once, you're dating them long enough to where they start bringing up like past relationships, because you get to talking about stuff.
Yeah.
I've been married a couple times, like twice. So there's things that like I want to explore and be like, hey, what did you learn from that experience? And so when you're with somebody who has these narcissistic qualities and you're in the moment with it, you're going to see a pattern of their relationships.
But also you're going to see and hear what they want you to see and hear.
Oh, for sure.
And they can make up anything, It was told to me that this person still wanted to be with that person, and that's why they were doing all of these things.
Right.
And I didn't know any better. I had no idea of any of the things, and so I was like, oh man, that's terrible. I was that chick. Yeah. I was the one who was like, oh my gosh, I believe you. I can't believe that.
I love you. I'll never talk to her.
And now being in the opposite end, I'm like,
Stop talking about your ex, Neil.
Who's Neil?
I believe you. Neil May, right? Yeah. We all have that.
Yeah.
So, some of us have several. Some of us made children with them. I know. It's all right. We can grow them up better than that.
Yeah, that's right. So yes. Let's see. Then we move into abuse.
Yeah. Which most of these things we've been talking about are abuse tactics.
Yes.
So it's not, we weren't just talking about like obviously physical abuse, but there's other forms of abuse.
Yeah, emotional abuse is a real thing.
Psychological abuse, financial abuse.
Yes.
There's lots of
physical violence, emotional manipulation, verbal abuse, sexual assault, financial exploitation, and isolation.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, Dana. She's yeah.
We're co-signing.
We are with you co-sign for all of this because you guys get it. So because you're not the ones that need to see this podcast. I mean,
right.
We know that you guys are survivors like
myself 6 years ago needed to see this.
Right.
What?
Right. And it is what it is. So it's important to understand that, and I want to reiterate that narcissism is a personality disorder, and not all abusers are narcissists.
Correct.
So that's a thing. You may have people who only abuse when they are under the influence of something, when they are stressed out, when they are not getting their way in some part of their life. So in this case, we're going to talk about all.
Right. This is not just abuse that comes from a narcissist. So physical violence, I think that this can be confusing to people if they've grown up with physical violence as a norm. And so in a relationship, it may not be seen as seriously detrimental because you're comfortable and you're used to that.
Yeah, and so I think that's something that a lot of children who either experience like their parents being abused or doing the
Abusive to them.
abuse, abuse in your household.
Yes.
So if you experience abuse in your household, there is a natural inclination that you are going to end up in an abusive relationship yourself. So like it's like it's your rate. I don't know what the percentage is. I'm sorry. We'll look it up and I'll put it in the comments. But it's really really high. The probability is just so high. So it's very important. Again, if you see any of these things happening in your relationship right now, it's time to reach out because you don't want to continue to raise your children in this environment because they're going to be a generational um,
Carry on.
it's going to repeat. It's going to repeat, and you don't want that because I know for myself, I grew up in an abusive home, and then I got into a relationship with a guy who was then abusive because I thought that was love. Like I thought that that's what was normal. That was normal in a house, and it was not. So these are important.
So I want to go into what involved in physical violence. This includes any use of physical force or violence against another person, such as hitting, slapping, punching, pushing, or kicking. It also includes behaviors like throwing objects or using weapons against the victim.
Mine was a law. In court, he said it was a stick. And then the judge asked him how big was the stick, and it was a fucking law.
And that's what he said.
No.
This is a fucking law.
No, the judge was like, sir, what you're describing is not a stick. What you're describing is a law. And it was done. Yeah. Because, liars don't lie.
Yeah.
Even in court.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then not show up to their court dates, too. Okay, let's move on to emotional manipulation. We kind of went into depth on that, but
yeah.
This type of abuse involves manipulating the victim's emotions in order to gain control over them. This may include tactics like gaslighting, where the abuser denies or distorts reality for their own sanity and perception of the event. And then verbal abuse. This can be any type of language or words to hurt or demean the victim, such as name-calling, insults, threats. And it can also include behaviors like yelling, screaming, or using harsh tones of voices.
Yeah.
Because it's intimidating.
Like harsh tones of voices, I didn't realize how triggering that one is for me. Like even now in my, healing girl stage, I'm still like, I'm so aware of people's tones of voices that when that happens, I shut down. I'm like, I mean, like I can't react. I don't want to engage. I want to completely disengage because I'm like, I can see where this is going.
Because you've had that experience, you know that it can escalate, or you think that it can escalate because that's what your past has told you.
Yes.
But in reality, depending on who it is, it may not.
Right.
It may be a safe person, but because of what you've gone through, you're like, no, I can't do this.
Yeah, that's a no-go for me, pal.
To me, this automatically goes from this yelling to throwing things and hitting things.
There's levels to this. So once we get past the one part, and then we've done some name calling or whatever, and then the voice gets raised because now I raise my voice like, don't talk to me like that. Mm-hmm. Try to stand up for myself, and then their voice gets raised. Like, and when their voice gets raised, then it's like, oh yeah, I better sit down with that. Yeah, that's the trigger.
Yeah, I mean, I had, without giving too many details, kind of the same thing, and it did escalate to a physical thing. And it was on the third time I was like, I don't think this is going to get done today. We can talk about this later. I think you need to leave. And there was a light switch that happened. And that was the first time that I had ever been in a position like that where someone who I did not ever think would do something like that did it. And that is mentally something.
Well, yeah, because then you don't trust anybody anymore because you're like, okay,
if this person can do this, there's no safety. Yeah,
I feel you there.
Do you want to talk about the sexual assault or no?
Like mine?
No, well, I mean that's the next one.
I need to laugh about it because we have definitely talked about it before. But yeah, I don't mind talking about what sexual assault is. I mean, and especially the fact that abusers do this in order to just keep their control over you. So that's when your abuser or whoever you're in this relationship with will do things to your physical body that they don't have permission to do. So, and that could be seen in all kinds of ways.
And you don't even feel like you have the
Control
autonomy
over-
to be able to say no
Correct.
because you've been in this coercive relationship.
Yes. So, and we've had this experience, I think, in many facets in our friend group as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and these fellas, people are mostly that. I mean, I know that women can be this way as well. So I don't want to leave that out or make a sweeping generalization. But I don't want to tell that story because it's not my story to tell. So I'm going to leave that alone. But
basically, it's unwanted sexual contact and behavior such as groping, fondling, or all the way.
The whole thing.
And it can include behavior such as coercion or pressure to engage in sexual activity against the victim's will.
Right, like I don't feel like doing that tonight. Oh, but come on, you said that yesterday, or and then like I'm just gonna take it.
And if you know that your partner will punish you later,
right,
not talk to you, maybe not get groceries because you don't do that, then you feel like you don't really have. Well, I pay for this house and I do this and I do that, and then you really might start saying internally, being like, well, maybe they're right. They do that, and this is the least that I can do, and then you're talking to doing something that you're not really wanting to do.
Yeah.
My next thing is financial exploitation.
Yeah, financial abuse in a relationship. So that's any behavior that involves using money or financial resources to control or manipulate their partner. This can include restricting access to money, controlling the finances, sabotaging a partner's efforts to become financially independent. So that's how you can't escape. Because if they control the purse strings on everything, even if you make your own money, like you go to your job, but they have access to your account where they take your check when you get home.
Or they take your credit card and put $3,000 worth of
or they do
charges
that
on it.
Yeah.
After you told them they could get gas.
Right. So then that's like, totally let me kick the door open and then. So yeah, all these ways that they try to control how much freedom you can have and the decisions that you can make because they're like, no, I have all your money. Or I'm controlling the finance.
Right. Or I have the money.
I have the
this
money.
Is my money. You just live here.
And since you didn't give me some poontang, I'm not buying you groceries. Yeah. That's terrible. This is gross. This is a gross episode. I'm sorry it's a gross episode.
But it needs
Do we need to
be,
take a break on here?
Probably.
I just gotta check.
Yeah. Let's just pause it. And then
thanks for sticking with us, guys. This has been a pretty deep, sticky episode.
And we're laughing, but
we are. But we survived
because we've gotten to the other side of it. But when you're in the thick of it, it is terrible. But
it still takes you a good, I'd say. I mean, I like to think as long as the injury was, that's how long you should be looking to recover from it.
Yeah.
Like so, if you were in this, and for us, unfortunately, we're in the relationship forever because we have children.
Yeah.
So, I think as long as we are connected to these people, we will just be kind of like in this ricochet. Let me heal from this. Oh, I'm fucked up about that. Let me heal from this.
The re-triggering.
Yeah, because we can't fully put them out of our lives.
Yeah. Doing the research for this episode, I was like, I kind of like, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
About it, but yeah, no, it's messed up. And so with the financial abuse as well, I've done a lot of reading and researching about post-separation financial abuse.
Yeah, like I'm not going to pay child support. Yeah.
Or spousal support.
Right.
Or, let's say that you guys had a joint bank account. They cut that off.
Yeah.
Or also abuse of court,
Like just keep hauling you back into court over and over again. I've seen women do this with men too, so I know that it goes both ways because there have been some times where I've seen like mothers take the ex-husband back into court like every 6 months like clockwork, even though nothing has changed in the situation, but she is just so convinced that at one of these junctures she's going to get more, because she's on the attack. And then I've seen it too where men will drag women into court who really have zero footing to make this claim,
Right. They just want to reduce their child support.
or they just want to reduce the woman, the mother,
Yeah.
and make her
Go
feel
through some
intimidated by
Yep.
this whole proceeding. And then knowing that this woman, the mother, is going to have to spend, a ridiculous amount of money, which is, again,
That could have gone to their children.
more of the financial abuse. So, yeah, I've seen it on both sides. I've seen women do it, and I've seen men do it. Use the court system as an abuse strategy. And it's usually because they're no longer in the relationship with that person.
Yeah.
And this is their only
Only way.
to like make them appear, is to give
Yeah.
them a subpoena. Yeah. And that's trash. We're reliving it in our head.
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
While
I
we're
have
talking
so
about it,
much
it's like,
to say.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah. Yeah, let's do a deep breath.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited that there are new tiers, though.
No, yeah, we've been pretty tough titties every year.
Okay, and then so we didn't really go into much depth in isolation.
Yeah. So when an abuser is isolating you, it is so that they can just further like sink their teeth into you.
Yeah, so you don't get any outside
support.
brainwashing.
Well, right. So they don't want you to have the support from your family and your friends, or to even like do the things that you enjoy doing. Like, let's say you love cycling. They would like trash your bike. Any kind of way to keep you from your joy, or from people that would help you out of the situation. They want to make you unbelievable. They want to make you not believe yourself.
Yeah.
And then they want to keep you in that energy and that space, and they want to keep you to themselves.
And the stress, scared.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like suffocating. And then you also feel like unwanted from your family and friends, because you're like, why aren't they coming around? Why aren't they around like they used to be? But it's really because you are being isolated by your partner, by your abuser. And then you become to a point too where you
I didn't even realize.
feel like you can't make your own choices. Like you need this person to make decisions for you, because you've been manipulated and gaslit so much that you don't trust your own decision making.
Yeah. Yeah, that gaslighting lingers for a really long time.
Yeah.
Like when I was going through my situation, it was very clear to you, like, no, you have nothing to worry about. Like, really, you don't have anything to worry about. But
right.
I think because I carried so much CPTSD from the actual relationship and the gaslighting, that I couldn't see it that clearly.
Right.
I was still under like a haze of, but maybe it is right. Maybe.
No, and I think that was one of the reasons why I was persistent and always reminding you of that, because I didn't want you to fall.
I'm like, you don't know. You don't understand.
She would be mad at me, but I would be like, bro, no, you are.
I'm like, or it could go this way.
Yeah.
And she's like, nah, I don't really think that it is.
Probably running like 10 plays on possibilities. And I get it, because when
We
you
want to be prepared.
When you get this kind of trauma, and then you have this, continued abuse outside of it, you're always looking for like the survival strategies, because now you've survived the trauma, but then it's reignited. So it's like, whoa, this person's back, and I thought they were never going to be back. And then they're back, and they're using a different abuse tactic to do that. So, yeah, but it was knowing innately and deeply, and within my sense of knowingness, whatever, my gut, my intuition was telling me that this person is not, he's a bad person, and he has a bunch of problems, and he needs to get help, and hopefully this is the avenue that he can get all the things that he deserves.
Yes.
And Dana Glass, that goes for yours too.
Once we went through the part of the process, and it was black and white,
right,
for the the thing that I wasn't sure if it was gone, or I'll just say there was a drug addiction, and I had been told for months and even years, oh no, this is not something, you're crazy. I'm not doing this. Da, 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 da. Give me a drug test. I'm not paying for a drug test. I'm not the one that has,
right.
I'm the one taking care of the child.
Yeah.
But once the drug test came back through the courts, it was clear. Like, you can't lie about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so.
Not it was clear. It was positively full of drugs.
Yes.
So
and
that
really
gave,
bad
that
drugs.
gave clarity
Drugs
to the
that are
situ-
killing people.
that gave clarity to the situation to show that she was accurate in
Every concern that I had.
right.
And that triggered a whole new step of healing too.
Yeah.
Because before it was like, well, I don't know, maybe this is going to be positive and maybe it's going to go the right way. And then it was like, no, here it is right here.
Yeah.
You are right.
Yeah.
Your concerns are right. Your hesitations are correct.
You were validated.
Yes, I was validated, and then I was able to heal more
Right.
through that because I was like, okay,
I'm
I
not,
am doing the
right.
right.
I'm not a crazy person. I didn't make this up. This is really real. It's factual. It's documented. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably that's
Defining
exactly
moment.
what needed to happen in order for me to feel comfortable moving forward the way that I was doing.
Hey, Alan. Yeah, no,
Hey.
you're absolutely right. And it's good to have that. And then for that his abuse tactic to have
Backfired on him. Yeah.
yeah. Like who does that?
Well, but
Yeah.
by him doing that, that was re-traumatizing. Like,
Yeah, definitely. And it was
going to
intentional.
court, I don't go to court. I don't go to, he visits there often. So for him, it's like, whatever, just another
Right.
day. For me, it was very, like, I'm a little more sensitive. I'm also a little more dealing with the fallout of it. And so for me, it was very re-triggering and re-wounding,
Right.
all while I'm trying to raise the child.
Yeah, and heal from his waves. Yeah, I feel you. What do we got next?
I think that's it.
It's
We're at 51 minutes.
That's a wide swath, guys. So, again, and then maybe it's not you that's being abused. Maybe you recognize that this is happening to one of your friends, maybe one of your partners, one of your girlfriends. So obviously, if it's physical abuse, you'll see it. You'll know what that looks like. But there are behavioral indicators, like the fact that you won't see them so much, that they will be isolated from family and friends and avoid certain activities. And then they have a great amount of fear and anxiety. Some psychological indicators of abuse include depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, suicidal thoughts. Victims of abuse may also have a hard time sleeping, eating, or concentrating. So if you start to notice that your friend's in this relationship and that they're exhibiting some of these characteristics, I would definitely want to get a little more in depth with that and try to help them get some help. And then as far as, again, with the narcissistic personality disorder, I want to really hone in on that is a personality disorder, and that is something that needs to be addressed with a medical professional. That being selfish is not the same as having a narcissistic personality disorder.
It was the person's sister for me who told me. I was like, yo, if your sister knows this, like, your siblings know you the best.
Yeah, they do. They sure do. So I want to say this too before we end this the podcast and the stream, that there's support for you if you are going through this, if you are a narcissistic person, and if you are leaving one of these situations. There is support for you if you need anything. And I've been I know that I've had people come to me throughout most of my adult life needing help sometime in these situations. And I have opened my home. I have, helped them get a living situation, like an apartment and furniture. So don't underestimate the power of people in your network when you need to give. And if this person is controlling your finances, don't worry about that. We'll help you and we'll make it go. And if you feel like you absolutely must, you can pay me back later. You know what I'm saying? Because some people think that's
there's also other routes too. So maybe you might be too embarrassed to go to your friend.
Yeah.
You might not want to tell anyone that you know. You might want to get some information
anonymously.
If you're from New Orleans, there is the New Orleans Family Justice Center. They have a lot of services that they offer. They have self-defense class. They have meditation and yoga, which we know helps work through trauma.
Yes.
And these are free classes. And I almost believe that they offer childcare to the mothers Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
when you come there, we'll add the
link.
website link so that in case anyone who's listening wants that, there it is, and you don't have to go looking for it.
All right. It makes the barrier between you and getting out and being safe
Yeah.
a lot easier when you have a lot of resources.
Yeah, because when you've been mentally pulled down,
Yeah.
emotionally pulled down, physically pulled
Right.
down, financially pulled down, it is very hard to see,
Right.
oh, let me just go. And especially if you don't have family support, if you don't have a family to fall back on, I can very easily see how it would just be, well, I just have to stay. I
Right.
don't have any other way.
There's
Especially if there are
nowhere
kids
for me to
involved.
go.
Yeah.
Especially if there's kids involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been there. Been there. So we'll link everything in the comments of the podcast. And thanks guys for coming and listening with us today. We appreciate y'all. Let us know what you thought about today's episode, what we talked about. I know a bunch of y'all left comments about your experiences, and I can't wait to go back to read them. And I appreciate you guys being vulnerable enough to share those in the comment section.
Yes,
So
thank you.
we love you, and thank you for listening and watching to Authentic Existence with Katie and Lori.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, wait, you have to end the live.
I have to end it. Katie can't end it. Love you,
Okay.
Missy. Thank you. You were integral all day. Love you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Oh, look at that. We just got it back. Oh, and I'm